Beneath the glittering crowns, the pageantry, and the centuries-old ceremonies, the Windsors wield a secret power few truly understand. Beyond Buckingham Palace and royal palaces worldwide lies an intricate web of influence, vast estates, private wealth, and global connections that shape politics, commerce, and diplomacy. Generations of strategic marriages, carefully cultivated public images, and silent negotiations have allowed this family to survive revolutions, wars, and scandals that toppled other dynasties. Behind the public faces of kings and queens is a hidden empire, a network of authority that quietly dictates outcomes across continents. From Europe to the colonies, the Windsors have mastered the art of subtle dominance, ensuring that the monarchy remains both revered and unstoppable. The story of the Windsors begins not in the grand halls of Buckingham Palace, but in the quieter, rolling landscapes of continental Europe. In the early 19th century, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha entered England, not just as a consort to Queen Victoria, but as a figure whose influence would ripple across generations. Through him, the monarchy gained not only companionship and counsel, but also a European network of alliances that positioned the royal family in the center of global diplomacy. The union of Victoria and Albert symbolized more than romance. It represented the strategic intertwining of royal houses, a subtle exercise of power that extended far beyond the palace walls. Victoria herself ascended the throne at just 18, inheriting a kingdom recovering from Napoleonic wars, social unrest, and a rapidly changing industrial landscape. She understood that her authority would rely as much on public perception as on parliamentary support. Her reign, later known as the Victorian era, became the blueprint for how monarchs could use family, image, and alliances to wield influence. Albert's intellect complemented Victoria's determination, transforming the monarchy into a centralized hub of knowledge, diplomacy, and strategic planning. The couple had 9 children, each married into European royal families, creating a network of influence that would endure for decades. These marriages were far more than ceremonial. They were deliberate, calculated moves in the chessboard of European politics. True, then, the Windsors and their Saxe-Coburg ancestors ensured a web of loyalty and mutual obligations spanning from Russia to Portugal, from Germany to Denmark. Even as nations clashed in wars, these family ties allowed the monarchy to maintain quiet channels of negotiation and influence, demonstrating that soft power could be just as formidable as armies. Yet the personal lives of Victoria and Albert were not without conflict. Albert's health issues and early death plunged Victoria into deep mourning, isolating her and forcing her to wield power with a mix of grief and determination. She became a monarch whose authority was both respected and feared. As she navigated political crises, colonial unrest, and public scrutiny, despite personal tragedy, she maintained her influence, proving that the crown's power often lies not just in ceremonial authority, but in the resilience, intellect, and strategic acumen of its holder. The foundations of the modern Windsor dynasty were laid during this era, through calculated marriages, careful public image management, and quiet diplomacy. The family began to consolidate wealth, influence, and political relevance that extended far beyond the United Kingdom. The Windsors' legacy of surviving and thriving amidst changing political tides, war, and public scrutiny began here a lesson in strategy, adaptability, and the subtle art of maintaining power without overt display of force. As the Victorian age progressed, Britain's empire expanded across continents, and the monarchy under the steady hand of Victoria and the counsel of Albert became a symbol of stability, morality, and imperial reach. From the corridors of power in London to the farthest colonies, the Windsors exercised influence, often unseen, ensuring that their authority remained respected, their legacy cemented, and their empire quietly extended. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, the Windsors faced challenges that tested both their public image and their private influence. Queen Victoria's death in 1901 passed the throne to her son, Edward VII, a king whose charm and cosmopolitan outlook reinforced the monarchy's image abroad, but also introduced complexities at home. Edward's reign was marked by diplomacy, social indulgence, and a careful cultivation of influence over both aristocracy and emerging political leaders. He understood that the monarchy's power was now as much about perception as legislation. The crown's survival required visibility, elegance, and subtle control over societal norms. Edward VII maintained his authority by leveraging relationships with European powers. The royal family's extensive connections through marriages and kinship about quiet interventions in diplomatic matters, from negotiating peace in crises to hosting gatherings that shaped alliances. The Windsors wielded influence behind the curtains of public attention. Yet this era was not without scandal. Edward's extramarital affairs and high society indulgences sparked criticism, highlighting the delicate balance between private behavior and public authority. How a monarch conducted personal life could either solidify respect or threaten legitimacy. Edward mastered the optics, understanding that charm and visibility could often outweigh moral scrutiny. The next decades brought unprecedented change. World War I erupted, threatening not only Europe's stability but also the monarchy's reputation. Anti-German sentiment in Britain forced the royal family to act decisively. In 1917, King George V. Edward's son renamed the family from Saxe-Coburg to Windsor, adopting a distinctly British identity. This act was more than symbolic. It was strategic. By severing visible ties to Germany, the Windsors demonstrated adaptability, political awareness, and an understanding that survival depended on aligning with national sentiment. The monarchy was no longer solely about bloodline. It had to resonate with its people. Even as war raged abroad, internal challenges loomed. Republican movements, calls for parliamentary supremacy, and social upheavals threatened to undermine centuries of royal authority. Yet the Windsors responded with measured strategy. The crown became a stabilizing symbol, rallying morale while avoiding overt political intervention. Through speeches, public appearances, and charitable initiatives, they maintained visibility, loyalty, and legitimacy. Their power was exercised subtly, emphasizing influence over force, trust over fear. The interwar years further tested the dynasty. King Edward VIII's abdication in 1936 revealed the vulnerabilities inherent in a public institution intertwined with personal life. Romantic choice clashed with duty, reminding the monarchy that its power rested not merely on wealth or tradition, but on perception, propriety, and alignment with national values. The Windsors survived this crisis because they had cultivated resilience across generations. Advisors, family consensus, and a strategic retreat ensured continuity, showing that adaptability was key to the dynasty's enduring power. During this period, the monarchy also consolidated wealth and private influence, quietly controlling estates, investments, and global connections. Through discreet management of assets, the Windsors ensured independence from political pressures, while maintaining a network of influence that spanned continents. From royal patronage to estate revenues, from social connections to private diplomacy, the family built a hidden empire that reinforced its public authority. By the mid-20th century, the Windsors had mastered the delicate art of survival, balancing public expectation, political realities, and personal dynamics. Scandals were mitigated with discretion, marriages were strategically guided, and the crown remained central to national identity. Even as the world modernized, the family demonstrated that centuries of survival relied on adaptability, foresight, and the quiet consolidation of influence that few could challenge. The 20th century brought the British monarchy into an era of unparalleled global upheaval, testing the Windsors' ability to balance duty, survival, and influence. When King George VI ascended the throne in 1936, following the abdication crisis of his brother Edward VIII, Britain was on the brink of another world war. George VI, once a reluctant prince, suddenly became the symbol of national unity. The Windsors, whose survival had long depended on strategy and perception, now faced a trial that demanded both courage and public visibility. During World War II, the monarchy emerged as more than a ceremonial institution. It became a rallying force. George VI and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, made the deliberate decision to remain in London during the Blitz, refusing to flee to safer palaces. Their visibility amidst bombings, rationed streets, and traumatized citizens exemplified the crown's subtle power, the ability to inspire resilience and loyalty through presence. Photographs of the royal family visiting bombed neighborhoods were circulated widely, reinforcing the perception of a monarchy deeply connected to the people it represented. This period also saw strategic management of the monarchy's image internationally. Britain relied on soft power to maintain alliances, and the Windsors played a key role through correspondence, diplomatic receptions, and discreet counsel. They maintained influence over foreign leaders and heads of state. The monarchy's authority was exercised not through legislation, but through trust, tradition, and the cultivation of relationships spanning continents. The network established by Victoria and Albert decades earlier now proved invaluable. It allowed Britain to negotiate, inspire, and influence during one of the most dangerous conflicts in human history. Meanwhile, George VI's daughters, particularly Princess Elizabeth, observed and learned the intricate balance of public duty and private life. Elizabeth's upbringing, heavily influenced by wartime responsibilities and strict protocol, prepared her to inherit a monarchy that had transformed. The Windsors' hidden power, quietly exercised through wealth, estates, and international connections, complemented their public roles. This duality to visible leadership paired with strategic influence was the secret to their survival and enduring authority. Post-war Britain faced economic hardship, decolonization, and societal change. Yet the monarchy's influence persisted, not by resisting reform, but by navigating it with intelligence and discretion. The Windsors adapted ceremonies, public appearances, and charitable work to demonstrate relevance. They cultivated loyalty in an increasingly democratic society, showing that survival relied on empathy, symbolism, and the ability to embody national identity. By the time Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952, the Windsors had solidified a model of monarchy uniquely suited for the modern world. Their power was no longer absolute, yet it was enduring, woven through diplomacy, wealth management, public image, and historical continuity. The survival of the crown was testament to centuries of adaptation, strategic marriages, and careful navigation of crisis lessons. Born from William the Conqueror, Victoria, and Edward VII alike, Elizabeth's early reign set the stage for the monarchy's continued relevance. The Windsors demonstrated that influence did not always require decree or force. It required foresight, resilience, and the skill to balance tradition with the expectations of a rapidly modernizing society. By understanding the power of symbolism and cultivating networks of loyalty and trust, the Windsors ensured that the monarchy remained a global institution, quietly shaping events and preserving authority across generations. The trials of war had proven the crown's endurance. The Windsors had survived abdication, crises, bombings, political upheaval, and public scrutiny, reinforcing a central truth. The monarchy's hidden, emperor's networks and strategic foresight was as vital to its survival as its ceremonial grandeur. Through courage, duty, and discreet influence, the Windsors emerged stronger, ready to guide Britain through a post-war world of unprecedented change. When Queen Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952, she inherited not just a crown but a complex, evolving empire. Britain was no longer the global superpower it had been. Decolonization was underway, the Cold War had begun, and the public expected a monarchy that could inspire, adapt, and endure. The Windsors faced a challenge that required subtlety, intelligence, and an understanding that their authority was now largely symbolic but no less potent. Elizabeth's early years as queen demonstrated an acute awareness of the balance between tradition and modernization. She embraced ceremonial duty stripping the color, state openings of parliament, and royal tours while cultivating a public image of steadfast dedication and moral leadership. In an era of rising mass media, visibility became power. The Queen's measured speeches, radio addresses, and later television appearances ensured that the monarchy remained a familiar, stabilizing presence in households across Britain and the Commonwealth. The Windsors' hidden influence extended beyond ceremonial display. Through discreet diplomacy and familial networks, they maintained connections with global leaders. These soft-powered channels, established by previous generations, allowed the monarchy to advise, mediate, and influence international relations without overt intervention. From negotiating Commonwealth concerns to ceremonial visits that smoothed diplomatic tensions, Elizabeth's reign demonstrated that subtlety and continuity could wield extraordinary authority. Internally, the Queen navigated shifting political landscapes. Successive governments, from Labour to Conservative, demanded a monarch who could remain neutral yet supportive of national stability. The Windsors' wealth, estates, and patronage networks allowed them to operate independently of political pressures, giving them leverage and authority in ways often invisible to the public eye. The monarchy's ability to survive in a parliamentary democracy depended on this careful exercise of soft power. Elizabeth also presided over an era of social change, women's rights, the welfare state, civil liberties, and technological advancements reshaped society, and the monarchy adapted. Royal visits to schools, hospitals, and factories demonstrated empathy and accessibility, while reinforcing the crown's symbolic unity. Through charity and ceremonial engagement, the Windsors connected tradition with relevance, showing that longevity depended on responsiveness as much as heritage. The Queen's personal life, too, became a public symbol of continuity. Her marriage to Prince Philip represented both companionship and strategic partnership. Philip's counsel, international experience, and modernization efforts helped the Queen navigate a rapidly changing world, balancing ceremonial obligations with practical governance of the monarchy's interests. Together, they reinforced the idea that the crown was not merely an institution of history, but a living entity capable of adaptation and survival. By mid-century, the Windsors had mastered the interplay of public and private influence. Their global tours strengthened Commonwealth ties. Ceremonial observances anchored national identity. Discreet diplomacy preserved influence, and strategic management of estates and investments ensured independence. This combination of symbolism, strategy, and adaptability became the hallmark of the modern British monarchy. Elizabeth II's reign demonstrated that the crown's endurance depended on the careful cultivation of legitimacy, public loyalty, and discreet influence. The Windsors had survived wars, abdications, and political upheavals by understanding that true power lay not in force alone but in perception, networks, and strategic foresight. By merging tradition with modernity, ceremony with substance, and family legacy with global influence, the monarchy secured its place in a world that had once questioned its relevance. The Windsors of the mid-20th century exemplified a monarchy that was both visible and hidden, ceremonial and influential, public and strategically private. This duality, symbolic authority, coupled with discrete networks of power, ensured that the crown remained not just a relic of history, but a dynamic force capable of shaping events, guiding nations, and maintaining a global presence. By the latter half of the 20th century, the Windsors faced a new and unprecedented challenge. The global media, television, newspapers, and later digital platforms brought the private lives of monarchs into the public eye like never before. The monarchy's survival now depended not only on tradition and diplomacy, but on managing perception and maintaining legitimacy amidst relentless scrutiny. Every speech, every public appearance, and every family scandal became a test of their enduring authority. The marriage of Charles, Prince of Wales, and Lady Diana Spencer epitomized the tension between public fascination and private complexity. The union was celebrated globally, a symbol of royal continuity and tradition. Yet behind palace doors, personal struggles and incompatibility sowed tension. When their marital difficulties became public, the Windsors faced a delicate balancing act. Protect the institution's dignity, while acknowledging the human realities of its members. Diana's immense popularity demonstrated the monarchy's reliance on personal connection to the public, while the scandal highlighted the dangers of media intrusion. Manuel. Queen Elizabeth II navigated political and social upheaval with the same strategic acumen that had guided her predecessors. Republican sentiment, calls for reform, and the changing role of the Commonwealth demanded careful diplomacy. The Windsors relied on centuries of cultivated networks both within the United Kingdom and abroad to preserve influence. Visits to former colonies, charitable engagements, and ceremonial duties reinforced loyalty and reinforced Britain's soft power. The monarchy demonstrated that influence could be exercised quietly through symbolic gestures and strategic relationships, rather than direct political action. The late 20th century also saw internal reforms within the monarchy itself. Estate management, transparency in finances, and modernization of royal protocols were crucial to maintaining public trust. The Windsors balanced centuries of tradition with pragmatic adaptation, ensuring the crown remained relevant in a society increasingly focused on accountability and media visibility. Even ceremonial acts were carefully choreographed to communicate stability, continuity, and empathy, reinforcing the monarchy's symbolic authority. Scandals were frequent tests. The separation and eventual divorce of Charles and Diana, coupled with media scrutiny of other royal relationships, posed risks to legitimacy. Yet the monarchy survived because it had built an enduring framework of loyalty, discretion, and adaptability. Public perception mattered as much as private conduct, and the Windsors leveraged visibility strategically, maintaining dignity while allowing time for public sentiment to recalibrate. Amidst these challenges, the monarchy continued to project influence on the global stage. Royal visits fostered diplomacy, charity engagements built goodwill, and ceremonial continuity anchored national identity. The Windsors had learned that survival depended on a dual approach, wielding influence discreetly while cultivating visible legitimacy. This balance was the hidden power of the dynasty, allowing it to endure despite scandals, media scrutiny, and societal transformation. By the turn of the century, the Windsors had redefined what it meant to be a monarchy. Power was no longer purely political or military. It was cultural, symbolic, and relational. The family's extensive networks, combined with careful management of wealth, public image, and tradition, ensured their influence remained global. Lessons learned from William the Conqueror to Elizabeth II, as mid-century reign proved vital. Survival required adaptability, visibility, and the careful cultivation of legitimacy. In this era, the Windsors were no longer just rulers. They were symbols, diplomats, and guardians of continuity. Their hidden empire, constructed over centuries, allowed them to navigate societal expectations, political shifts, and global crises, while preserving the monarchy's authority. By understanding the interplay between private strategy and public perception, they maintained relevance in a rapidly evolving world. As the 21st century dawned, the British monarchy faced unprecedented challenges: globalization, digital media, and shifting public expectations. The Windsors were no longer just symbols of British tradition. They were actors on a global stage, scrutinized in real time by millions. The monarchy's survival now demanded mastery of communication, adaptability, and a keen understanding of modern society. Public engagement became as crucial as ceremonial authority, and the family's historical networks were now complemented by the immediacy of the internet and worldwide media coverage. Queen Elizabeth II, with decades of experience, guided the monarchy through these transformations. Her presence became both stabilizing and reassuring, a living link to history amidst rapid change. From state visits to digital outreach, the Windsors demonstrated that influence was no longer limited to parliaments or embassies. It extended into hearts, minds, and global perception. Every gesture, appearance, or speech could reinforce loyalty, project authority, or strengthen diplomatic ties. The crown's soft power became as important as its ceremonial weight. The younger generation, including Prince William, Prince Harry, and Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, were tasked with balancing tradition with modern sensibilities. Royal engagements evolved to focus on social issues, mental health, environmental concerns, and charitable work, allowing the monarchy to remain relevant while maintaining symbolic authority. The Windsors skillfully leveraged media to communicate compassion, responsibility, and continuity. Understanding that visibility in the modern age was both a tool and a test. Scandals and controversies remained a persistent threat. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's departure from frontline royal duties in 2020 demonstrated how personal choices, when broadcast globally, could impact perception of the monarchy. Yet the Windsors' resilience built over centuries ensured stability. The monarchy's legacy of discretion, strategic marriages, and careful management of both public and private affairs allowed it to absorb shocks without losing core authority. This adaptability was a hallmark of the dynasty's enduring power. Globalization also offered opportunities. The Windsors cultivated diplomatic influence through state visits, charity initiatives, and informal mediation. While their authority was symbolic, it often carried weight in negotiations, soft diplomacy, and international goodwill. The monarchy's centuries-old networks, combined with modern communication tools, allowed the family to maintain an unparalleled level of influence in an era where direct political power was limited. In addition, estate management and financial strategy ensured independence. The crown estate, private holdings, and philanthropic endeavors provided resources to navigate challenges without relying solely on government support. Wealth management became a strategic tool, reinforcing both autonomy and subtle global influence. The Windsors demonstrated that power in the modern era was multifaceted: symbolic, financial, diplomatic, and relational. Through public engagement, discreet influence, and strategic modernization, the Windsors secured the monarchy's relevance for a new era. They demonstrated that survival required both respect for history and adaptability to change. By connecting tradition with contemporary concerns and symbolism with practical influence, the monarchy maintained its authority, prestige, and hidden power. The 21st century Windsors exemplified a monarchy capable of transformation while honoring its past. They proved that centuries of accumulated wisdom, strategic alliances, and careful cultivation of image and networks could navigate even the most unprecedented challenges. The hidden empire of the Windsors, built on history, diplomacy, wealth, and public trust, intact, ensuring that the crown would endure for generations to come. The Windsors in the early 21st century faced crises that tested the monarchy in ways unimaginable to their predecessors. Public scrutiny had intensified with 24-hour news cycles and social media, making every misstep highly visible. The monarchy's survival now depended on managing perception, sustaining public trust, and balancing personal lives with institutional responsibilities. Unlike past generations, where secrecy could shield scandals, the modern royal family had to navigate transparency and accountability while preserving authority and tradition. Family dynamics became central to the narrative of the Windsors. Prince Charles's long wait to ascend the throne, coupled with the public breakdown of his marriage to Princess Diana, revealed the delicate intersection of personal life and public expectation. Diana's immense popularity underscored a critical lesson. The monarchy's relevance hinged on its perceived connection with the people. The Windsors had to reconcile centuries of protocol with the emotional realities of modern society. Queen Elizabeth II, however, remained a steady anchor. Through decades of careful public engagement, measured speeches, and symbolic acts, she maintained legitimacy and continuity. Her leadership was not merely ceremonial, it was strategic. She navigated political controversies, family scandals, and global criticism with a keen sense of timing, understanding that the crown's endurance depended on patience, foresight, and restraint. Her longevity allowed the monarchy to weather storms that might have toppled a less stable institution. The emergence of Prince William and Prince Harry as public figures introduced both opportunity and challenge. While they represented modernization and youth, their actions, particularly Harry and Meghan Markle's decision to step back from royal duty, sparked debate about the monarchy's role, relevance, and adaptability. Yet these challenges highlighted a centuries-old truth. The Windsors' resilience was rooted in their ability to absorb personal and political shocks while preserving the institution's continuity. Scandal, conflict, and criticism were not new. They were tests of survival that had shaped the monarchy since William the Conqueror. The monarchy's role within the Commonwealth also remained crucial. Royal tours, charitable patronage, and diplomatic engagements reinforced Britain's soft power and global influence. The Windsors exercised authority not through legislation or coercion, but through symbolism, relationships, and historical continuity. This subtle power, cultivated over 1,000 years, allowed the monarchy to shape perceptions, forge alliances, and maintain relevance on the world stage. Domestically, public opinion demanded transparency, relevance, and empathy. The Windsors adapted through media engagement, charitable initiatives, and personal outreach. They modernized ceremonies and embraced technological platforms to connect with citizens while upholding tradition. The duality of the monarchy's visible public presence and discreet private influence ensured it could navigate the complexities of contemporary society without losing authority. Even in moments of crisis, such as family disputes or political debate over the monarchy's funding, The Windsors relied on centuries of institutional knowledge, advisors, estate management, and the historical precedent-guided decisions, allowing the crown to act decisively yet subtly. By preserving continuity, cultivating loyalty, and carefully managing perception, the monarchy maintained its hidden empire's ability to influence events, shape narratives, and remain a global symbol of stability. Part 7 shows that the Windsors' survival in modern times is a testament to adaptability, foresight, and strategic use of both public visibility and private influence. They have navigated scandals, changing social norms, and global scrutiny while retaining authority, demonstrating that the monarchy's power is as much about perception, networks, and symbolism as it is about history and tradition. In the present day, the British monarchy stands as both a historical institution and a living symbol of continuity. The Windsors have weathered centuries of war, political upheaval, societal change, and personal scandal, emerging as a resilient and influential family whose power is subtle yet enduring. Their authority is no longer solely defined by political or military might, but by perception, diplomacy, symbolism, and global recognition. The monarchy's survival has depended on an intricate balance, preserving tradition while adapting to contemporary expectations. Queen Elizabeth II's unprecedented reign over 7 decades exemplified this balance. Her steadfast presence provided stability through wars, decolonization, economic crisis, and family controversies. The Windsors' ability to maintain loyalty, project empathy, and cultivate relationships both within the United Kingdom and across the Commonwealth reinforced the monarchy's global influence. State visits, charitable initiatives, and ceremonial duties were not mere pageantry. They were instruments of soft power, allowing the crown to shape public opinion, strengthen alliances, and maintain authority in a modern world where overt political power was largely absent. The younger generation of the Windsors, including Charles, William, and the Duchess of Cambridge, has continued this careful stewardship. Their roles blend public engagement with discreet influence, promoting mental health awareness, environmental conservation, and charitable work, while preserving the monarchy's traditions. They embody the duality that has ensured the crown's survival for over a millennium, a blend of visible leadership and hidden networks of power. Even in moments of intense public scrutiny, the Windsors' resilience is evident. Controversies surrounding family dynamics, media intrusion, and shifting societal expectations have tested the institution repeatedly. Yet, the monarchy endures because it adapts strategically, communicates effectively, and remains deeply embedded in national identity. The Windsors have mastered the art of balancing personal lives with institutional duty, recognizing that the crown's authority is inseparable from public perception. Globally, the Windsors retain influence through the Commonwealth and diplomatic channels, reinforcing Britain's soft power. They serve as cultural ambassadors, mediators of historical continuity, and symbols of unity in a world of constant change. Their estates, investments, and careful management of resources provide independence, enabling strategic action without reliance on government directives. This combination of symbolism, wealth, and discretion ensures that the monarchy remains a subtle yet powerful force. The secret to the Windsors' enduring authority lies in their ability to evolve while remaining anchored to history. From William the Conqueror's military conquests to Elizabeth II's mastery of public perception, the monarchy has adapted to meet the challenges of each era. The crown has survived revolution, world wars, abdications, and global scrutiny, not because it resisted change, but because it understood the necessity of balancing tradition with innovation. As the Windsors look toward the future, their legacy is clear. The British monarchy remains a global institution, resilient, influential, and symbolically potent. It has survived through foresight, strategic adaptation, careful management of both public and private influence, and the cultivation of networks that span nations and generations. The crown's power lies not only in ceremonial splendor but in centuries of accumulated wisdom, subtle diplomacy, and an unwavering understanding of the balance between visibility and discretion. The Windsors' story is a testament to survival, resilience, and the enduring power of tradition tempered by adaptability. Through wars, scandals, societal change, and the relentless gaze of history and media, They have maintained authority, shaped global perceptions, and secured the monarchy's place in the modern world. The hidden empire of the Windsors, intricate web of relationships, influence, and strategy remains intact, ensuring that the British crown continues to shine as both a symbol of continuity and a force of subtle global power. Conclusion. The Windsors' legacy is defined not merely by ceremonial grandeur, but by their remarkable ability to adapt, influence, and endure. Through diplomacy, strategic foresight, and careful cultivation of public trust, they have preserved the monarchy's relevance for over 1,000 years. From William the Conqueror to the present day, the British royal family exemplifies the delicate balance of tradition and modernity, visibility and discretion, authority and empathy. Their story demonstrates that true power lies not only in crowns and titles, but in resilience, strategy, and the enduring capacity to shape history while navigating the demands of each new era.